I'll just do a quick introduction on myself, and then we'll go through the panel and allow the panel to introduce themselves as well. You know a little bit about Sean, but expand a little bit about how they use BI. A little bit myself. I'm a former CPA. I worked at SAP for 7 years doing implementations and pre-sales demos and things like that. I also worked at DHL, the global delivery company. I had a long title. My official title was Global Financial Process Reporting Owner, which meant basically I was in charge of all SAP reporting. We used SAP for everything from ERP as well as data warehouses across the globe. So I had the privilege of working in Europe, places like Paris and Belgium and things like that for several weeks, rolling out BW and things like that at DHL. So know it very well from a customer perspective in terms of how to use analytics and use SAP. So I kind of feel these customers' pains when they talk about things that they had before BI and things they gained after BI. I've been with Bramasol for about 5 years in my role in doing pre-sales and really work with customers day to day in terms of evaluating the SAP solutions and seeing what SAP's roadmap is heading and things like that. So really glad to be here today. So Sean, we know a little bit about you, but let's talk about how you use BI in your organization. And
just for those that remember my brief bio, I just joined a company called Mountain Medical. We're the 6th largest radiological group in the country. We have about 400 employees, and that is something that I'm actually working on right now, and I'm still trying to find my desk. So I wouldn't be able to address that at my current location. So maybe you can.
That's perfect.
Okay.
That's perfect, yeah.
All right.
All right. I'm Clint Webb. I'm with Home Meridian International. We're a top 5 furniture case goods supplier in the U.S. We're a global design and marketing company. We have offices, our headquarters in High Point, North Carolina. We have distribution centers in Redlands, California, Madison, North Carolina, and we have 3 offices in the Far East. Our largest and main office is Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. We also have offices in Guangdong, China, and we just opened an office just outside of Shanghai. We ship about 12,000 plus containers per year, both into our distribution center facilities, and about 60% of that goes directly from Asia direct to our customers. So we're an ECC 6 shop. We run BW 3.5, hopefully for not much longer. We run Business Objects 3.1, and we also run CRM 7. So BI, it's really become a key driver in the company for us. Right now, the majority of what we use BI for is on the sales reporting side. So every day our sales guys know both prior day, week to date, month to date, exactly where they're at, where their biggest customers are at, who's doing what orders we've taken, what orders we've potentially lost. And where we're really focusing right now is on our supply chain. We're basically a supply chain company, and that's the major driver of our business. So we're really looking on and expanding out our analytic capability in that area so that we know we can do a better job forecasting. We know if a container shipment moves or a production order moves, we want to know what that does to our inventory, what that does to our customer orders, and which customers that impacts. And then we also use it a great deal for inventory forecasting. We want to know at the end of every month where we're going to be, and we have very long lead times, so somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 12 weeks. So being able to forecast out based on our sales forecast, our actual orders, our production, what's going to ship when, that's really a key driver for us and how successful we can be. And that's the area we're focused on most right now, and then we're going to be focusing on financials next and that.
My name is David Hsiao. I'm from a company called BioMed Realty. We're one of the largest providers of real estate for the life science industry. I've been with the company for about 7 years. My personal background is I'm a network infrastructure design and security specialist. But about 2 years ago, I was promoted to senior director, and my boss, the CFO, said, "Hey, your pathway to becoming a CIO is that now you have to deal with business strategy and finding better ways for the company and the business to gain access to market intelligence, analytics." And so that's when I met Frank. It was about 2 years ago. I remember sitting in the office with the CFO, and when he told me that, I remember my life flashing before my eyes because it's accounting and I'm an IT guy, and I had no idea. Yeah. And I remember all the times I used to walk through finance and accounting, and I laughed at everybody's Excel spreadsheets that were, 50 pages long and 100 megabytes, and I would just kind of laugh at them and say, good thing I don't have to deal with that, but now I do. So Bramasol was one of the companies that I had talked to, and I had spoken to several vendors, and in addition to looking at other solutions from Oracle and IBM, and we ended up going with BPC, and it's really changed the way we do our business. Specifically, our budgeting process is very extensive, very complex. Prior to the implementation, we did an analysis of how long it took all of our finance guys and our accounting teams to prepare the Excel spreadsheets where all of our reporting, all the data lived. Between all of our employees, it took roughly 2,400 hours per year to prepare the spreadsheets. And the reason for that is because the spreadsheets had, complex calculations and data links, and being that we're a real estate company, every time we purchased a new entity, they would have to rebuild every single one of those Excel spreadsheets and spend countless numbers of hours testing to make sure all those links worked. And it was just an absolutely horrible experience. Being a real estate company, we should be happy every time we purchase new property, but it's like the worst day of the finance guys' lives whenever we do expand. So BPC, this time we just implemented it. We did it, we ran it live, and we also ran our budgeting the old way in parallel, and we went from 2,400 hours to roughly 230 hours. So it was a huge decrease. So our company is very excited about BPC and what it can do for us, and we're currently looking into business objects and mobility.
My name is Colasimone, and I'm with SAP. I've been with SAP for over 8 years, and I come through the Crystal Decisions and the Business Objects acquisitions. And I run the analytics and database and technology out of Vancouver for the Western US. It's funny, us Canadians are working with the US, but we're actually the number 4 SAP office in regards to employees, which we have about 1,500. That's where a lot of our product and development on the analytics takes place. So it was just an evolution of the teams to be able to support not only in Canada, but also in the US as well. I'm looking forward to talking with a bunch of you. I've had the great opportunity of, working through acquisitions. They're not easy. I've lived it twice now. But what I can say is I've really seen SAP evolve. And what I mean by that is last year, 50% of our annual revenue within North America came from analytics. This year, they're actually projecting about 75% in North America analytics. It doesn't mean we're going away from ERP, but it's actually the evolution of the BI industry. And what it is it's the consumers like myself, because I do consume our technology, is how it's making my life easier. I went from an operational report to something that I needed to slice and dice, and I need something real time. If somebody phones me up, the CEO of North America, and says, Michelle, why did your forecast drop? I have to know immediately. And I go into my Explorer workspace, and I quickly, because I have my forecast memorized now, but I can see quickly where it dropped, and I said, okay, I can get that fixed. I have the power to be able to do something, whereas I used to have to rely on IT folk to be able to do that. So I'd love to hear your stories. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of our customers, work through a lot of evaluations in regards to processes and what got them to the decision. Maybe it wasn't SAP, maybe it was someone else. And I've also had the opportunity of those customers to come back to me and say, I need your help again. because believe it or not, the decisions that when you actually make that software investment and when you go to implementation, a month later or a couple months later, generally when people realize the power that actually is in their hands, all of a sudden requirements change. And then that evolves into future discussions that then you can have. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. One of the things in my job day to day is to help our customers evaluate SAP software and compare it to competing solutions on the market. And in the past, I've replaced Hyperion budgeting at Callaway Golf. I've done it at DHL. We had to go through an internal intensive review process of the Hyperion that we had in place versus SAP budgeting software. So I kind of know what it's like from a customer perspective as well as from an SAP perspective to go through an evaluation cycle and why ultimately we chose SAP. I thought it'd be nice to kind of get these guys' thoughts in terms of what type of evaluation they went through and then we were looking at SAP analytics and why they chose SAP. And add any color commentary they can, because I thought when Sean went through his T-chart, went through his analysis of RICEF and things like that, that was really, really useful. So, Sean, could you talk about that?
Yeah, I actually did the BI side separate than the ERP side. I looked at MicroStrategy and BobJ, and I would say, candidly, MicroStrategy was prettier. I don't think a lot of people would argue that. It's a prettier product. SAP doesn't win any beauty pageants anyway. That's not really a bad thing once you start to really understand the SAP world. As we looked at the two different products, and you bring in a user group and you bring in a bunch of executives, they may see something that they like in another product, but almost always it's going to be aesthetically. We like the pretty cars stacked on top of each other easier. Well, that's great. That's just not what we're going to go with because that doesn't plug in pretty cars. So the back end becomes much more important on the integrations more than anything, on all the things that come in. So for me, that's just a really long conversation. But I would say that in my evaluation, one of the things that I gave SAP the most amount of weighting towards was further development. You know that if BobJ is owned by SAP, they will come in first place on anything further developed, of any future integrations. If you are an SAP customer, how can you not give them more points versus a Hyperion or a MicroStrategy or someone else who's definitely going to be last to the race on any further development? They may be able to integrate, they may be able to do some of these things, but it will not be as fast as an SAP. So that was probably one of my larger ones. And a few other things, but particularly around, at the time when we did ours, mobile was really just getting started, and we knew that they would be an upper right, the magic quadrant, and that's why we went with BobJ.
Great. Thank you, Sean. Clint, do you have anything to discuss?
When we started looking at packages, we initially were looking to upgrade our existing BW system to BW7. And then throughout that process, we said, that BW doesn't really do what we wanted to do. We really wanted to look at a more user-friendly, more easy to maintain system that we could maintain internally. And that's when we started looking at other BI providers. And we actually started out looking at four: information builders, LogicXML. Both of those are pretty smaller players. ClickView, ClickTech, and Business Objects. We pretty quickly eliminated LogicXML and information builders. They just weren't big enough players. They had nice visualizations. They were pretty, but that's about as far as it went with either one of those. So it really came down for us between ClickView, ClickTech, and Business Objects. ClickView's got a good product. They've got a really nice dashboard product. What they lack is it's not really necessarily an enterprise reporting solution. It's not a full-featured reporting set. It does dashboards really well. It does departmental size stuff really pretty well. But it's really hard to apply it out across the enterprise. It also had really no capability for doing formatted reporting. And even so, dashboards are great in that. Our managers, our executives, they want nicely formatted reports. They want them every time. They want it, there's a whole monthly package we do. And ClickTech absolutely didn't have the capability of doing that at the time. And a lot of what Sean said comes down to data integration. ClickTech, when asked, was like, yeah, we can integrate with SAP. We've built two integration sets for it, SD and FI, and they're working on it on MM. at the time we talked to them. But they did not have an actual data integration platform that we knew we could take internally using Data Integrator and pull any data we wanted out of SAP, manipulate it in any way we wanted, and pull any other set of data that we had. So it really came down to, for us, those two things: ease of data integration and a full-featured reporting solution that we knew we could grow with. It had the option for mobility. It has Excelsius for dashboards, Crystal reporting for our financial side when we get to that. And then right now, Webby is our primary reporting tool of use right now. So that's really what came down to for our decisions.
Great, thank you. Dave, you and I, we've known each other for 2 years, and I mentioned when you were going through the evaluation process, I know you did a very thorough process. You could probably write a novel on that process, so just want to get some of your thoughts in terms of what you looked at and what made you, drive the SAP decision.
To sum up my experience through the evaluation, I would say that the SAP product, it just works. And more importantly, it works the way I want it to work. It works the way my business wants it to work. I looked at Hyperion. I looked at IBM's TM1, which is the equivalent of SAP's BPC product. TM1 is a very, very elegant, very nice-looking solution. And funny enough, during my evaluation, they constantly said, "Oh, well, this works just like SAP's BPC." They always compared it to BPC, which was one of the reasons why I kind of thought to myself, "Wow, what is this BPC? I got to go take a look at it." BPC used to be OutlookSoft. OutlookSoft has been around for a very, very long time. TM1 is relatively new to the market. But with Hyperion and TM1, it really, really required a significant amount of training. It required the users to adapt to the product and to really, really change a business process that was already in place, that was working, that everybody was comfortable with. And I didn't have the luxury of a lot of time. I didn't have the luxury of a tremendous amount of budget. So what BPC enabled me to do was to really create the solution that I wanted without having to retrain all the users. And as you know, a lot of the analytics and the reporting, it's all done in Excel. That's what everybody wants. That's what everyone's comfortable with. And BPC is the data aggregator in the background, and the user interface is truly Excel. So when the users found out about that, they worked with it, they absolutely loved it. There was very, very little user training that's really necessary to really get the full effectiveness out of the product. And it's really, really changed the way we've done business.
So in every sales cycle, there's some form of a competitor, whether it's a niche ankle biter, as I like to call them, the ClickTechs of the world who are fantastic at what they do. It's fancy MicroStrategy. They are very, very good. At the end of the day, BPC, the same thing. We generally have that. We're either going up against another vendor, or we're going up against custom, or we could go through a sales cycle, and a lot of organizations could have a no decision. It could just not happen because buying another entity was a bigger priority for them. So we see a lot of different things. What I can say is, we go through a number of sales cycles. If somebody's looking for ERP, I also do standalone analytics. I also do standalone data integration, or what's your database strategy? So I have a full gamut of different things that we see. What I would say is the power of SAP is how it all speaks to one another. We can complement any type of strategy that you're looking to deploy, whether it's database, whether it's a report, whether it's your budgeting and planning cycle, whether it's your risk and governance that you're trying to solve for within your organization. At the end of the day, I always say, if you're going to a horse race and you're going to bet on a winning horse, SAP is the one you want to go with, because it's been there. It's done that. We've experienced it. We know what customers are asking for. What is the big game changer for me, and two of you have said it, is the integration. Data integration for SAP came through an acquisition from Acta. Acta was a couple of SAP employees that needed to integrate data, and they've started this company, and it was primarily for SAP. The great thing is we don't care what back end you are. You can have Oracle, you can have Microsoft, it doesn't matter. The data integration allows that data movement from one source to another. If you have an entity, it allows you to integrate those organizations a lot quicker than you could. But then you can also make it into some very strategic things with the movement of data. How do you want to store it? Do you want to have separate data marts? Do you want to build a data warehouse? There's multiple aspects of it. The great thing about SAP when you're going up against other analytical partners is, yes, Oracle has theirs, Microsoft, it's, their SSIS. It's a lot, it's code intensive. We have the capabilities to really automate those data flows a lot quicker, and we've been able to produce that. When I talk to companies, I always say, what's your overall strategy? Do you want to report? At the end of the day, that's great. But I always say, do you want to is it just lipstick on a pig, that report? Is it just that operational, highly formatted report? What's your overall strategy? What are you trying to do? Where are you trying to take your company? And actually what I found over the last year is the conversations I'm having with a lot of companies and evaluations is a lot different. It's the end users are changing. It's those people coming out of university that are entering the workforce now that want that data now. It's not being able, I call it the wheel, waiting for a report that I used to have to wait, 30 seconds or 45 seconds for a report. It just doesn't happen now. I stop it. I close the browser. I'm tired of waiting. How is your architecture today going to be able, for your organization, to be able to support those people entering the workforce? That's the type of conversations we're having now. So it's a full gamut of evaluations. I'm glad two of you brought up the data integration because that really is a key differentiator for us in analytics.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, especially with Clint, is that we both know the Model Business Warehouse, the BW product, and it came with pre-delivered cubes. We used that heavily at DHL, so we had the financials cube, the sales order cube, the supply chain cube, and all of that. So one of the things that's kind of hot right now is the concept of rapid marts, which are pre-configured cubes for business objects. So I wanted Clint to give his thoughts on the rapid marts. So you guys have adopted one, if not more. So maybe give some insight on that.
Yeah. We did purchase one rapid mart. We purchased the sales and distribution rapid mart, and we did that because that was the key reporting area we wanted to get up the fastest. And with that rapid mart, we were able to go from basically nothing to we were cranking out reports, pretty nice formatted reports, easy to modify. Within about 6 weeks, we were able to go live with it. We've looked at several of the other rapid marts, particularly the purchasing rapid mart and the finance rapid marts. The purchasing one we actually opted to build internally. And that's largely because how we look at purchasing and how we look at the data is really much different than what a lot of the way the standard purchasing one comes with it. We're a lot less focused on vendor performance in terms of, are they on time every time? That's a piece of it, but a lot of it is we integrate a lot of our purchasing data with our sales data. So it's not just looking at purchasing in isolation and looking at POs and the delivery. It's looking at it in terms of linking the sales orders to that purchasing data. We do a lot with deliveries. That's really not necessarily supported by the standard one. So we opted to go and build that internally. But that's kind of the great thing about Data Integrator. Even with that, we had a rapid mart, and we used that rapid mart as the model for how we wanted to do it. So we have one person internally that she's responsible for all of business objects, all the ETL, the back-end database. She supports the majority and has created a lot of the reporting. But we have one person that she does everything kind of soup to nuts within business objects. And she's able to do that, and she's able to do it very efficiently. On the finance side, we're still up in the air on that. We may come back and look at doing a rapid mart with for those pieces of it. That's finance is the next piece that we're looking at doing probably starting in the coming weeks. But that's kind of why I'm going to take on the rapid marts.
Great, thank you. One of the other things that we just is emerging his session earlier is mobility, and one of the projects we've been working on with BioMed is actually on analytics on the mobile device. So we've been working with the Office of the CFO, with the executives in terms of making the data available on the mobile devices. BioMed is one of the leading edge users in terms of mobility and the high tech. So I wanted to give David a little bit of time to talk about maybe your experience with the mobility and analytics so far, and where you guys see yourself going in the future with that.
So I had mentioned, all of our analytics, all of our reporting they're in Excel spreadsheets. These Excel spreadsheets, before BPC, before mobility, all the data was consumed from different data sets. We have our financial system, which is MRI. We have a fixed asset reporting software. We had data all over the place, which, whenever a report was necessary, all the different departments would have to get together, print out the reports, send it to somebody, the finance team. The finance team has to aggregate the data, then cut and paste and create these reports. And it took a very, very long time. And these reports were used by our executive team to make decisions, to do what-if analyses. And every time the CFO or the CEO wanted to make a change, everybody would scramble and repeat that process over again. So now with BPC, all that data is stored in data cubes. So essentially it's a data warehouse. BPC talks to all these different data sets. So the different departments no longer have to prepare reports. They just have to manage their own data. BPC does the rest. And recently we started building out our web intelligence platform. We're using Web 4.0, which is business objects. And with business objects, our team can very, very quickly build custom reports, ad hoc reports through the tool, which is basically a real quick drag and drop. And they can actually publish it, and the executive team can see it on their iPads or on their iPhone within minutes. And right before this panel discussion, there was the display where they showed the different analytics that you can do on the iPad. And that's exactly what we're capable of doing now. And we can achieve the access to those custom reports now within really minutes. Whereas before, like I said, it would take an entire team several hours to cut, slice and dice the data and manually create these reports.
Great, thank you. One thing I want to ask Michelle is every time customers talk to me about BI or mobility, sometimes they're one and the same. It's not just about looking at pretty reports. It's not just about having mobile access. Sometimes it's when customer wants a mobile or BI demo, I ask, is it an analytic demo or is it something on an iPad? What exactly is the criteria? It seems like the two have a lot in common, and sometimes the mobile apps are BI, but they're mobile. So I just want to get Michelle's thoughts in terms of where SAP is heading with that.
Obviously, if mobility with the analytics is what we have to do, it's what our customers are going to. It's what I'm doing to make my life a lot easier. I brought my laptop on this trip with me, and I probably won't even open it. That's just the reality of it. It's been an evolution of the last couple years with specific tools. I might call it a report. Other people would probably call it a dashboard that I use. It's universal how the terminology is used. When I'm speaking to customers and they say, I really want a dashboard on my desktop, and I said, well, what's your definition of a dashboard? Or what's your definition of an ad hoc report? What does that mean to you? Because everybody defines that differently. But the most important thing now is the ease of access of that information, regardless of the report. That's not what SAP is about. It's actually getting that information that I need at the right time on the right device whenever I need it. It doesn't matter if it's a web intelligence report or an Explorer workspace. It doesn't matter anymore. It's how I want to see it, when I want to see it, with the right information that I want to see it. That's really the direction in which SAP is going.
So the question is, what does big data mean to SAP, right? I think Michelle may be best suited to answer that question. Maybe Hannah comes to mind, or not?
You're going to probably be surprised by my answer. This is, I actually hate when people talk about big data. I really do. Because every organization, they have data. Doesn't matter, and there's large volumes of it. The point is what's relevant. Which data is relevant, and to get that relevant data to the right person at the right time. Could be HANA as a solution. I generally hate talking about solutions. What I like to talk about is, what's your end state? What is your nirvana? What do your consumers want? How fast do they want it? There's some customers that want stuff in real time, and I say, okay, well, what's real time to you? And they say, some people, one of them, it was funny, a couple weeks ago, they said 4 hours. And I said, okay, yeah, we can do that. Sure, no problem. Some it's instant. I always say, I'm getting a little greedy, and, my IT people, I'm sure I drive them crazy. It's because I feel like I'm superwoman on the weekend. I can go in and I want information, and I go and I Google search or whatever I'm going to, and I get the information right away. Well, that's what I expect in my job. And I'm going, okay, well, that's what my customers are expecting. They're expecting stuff in real time. It doesn't matter the data set. For me, big data, I think, is just a word used because everybody seems to be talking about it. For me, you might have different opinions on it, but I think what the point is when you actually peel back, what people are wanting is speed. So when you were talking about, the fast is eating the slow, I think it's relevant in what we do is, if I don't get information fast to that person, they're looking somewhere else for that information. So as an organization, I want to be sure that the people that are getting that information to me know what I want, know how I want it, and know where to send it when I want it.
Yeah, you kind of made me think of a couple of things. The first thing that you made me think of is, almost always I have so many people that come to me with, well, I want to do this a certain way, and they'll say, well, but we're really different. And I remind them that I'll sometimes say, listen, Snowflake, you're different, just like everybody else. And so I use that as an example to say that I want to always go with SAP in terms of their best practices. I don't want to rebuild the car, not when I don't have to. I can look at their 30 years and say, if this is the way you do shop floor, I don't know anything really about shop floor. I'm in high tech. But if someone hired me tomorrow and said we're going to do shop floor, I don't want to know how they're doing it right now. What's SAP been doing for 30 years, and what have they got figured out with their high tech or their shop floor template or whatever? They said, we've studied it. We put $1 million behind people just reading this and figuring out if it's the best way. I'm not going to build a car. I'm going to always go that way. Until someone could really, really show me why they were truly unique, I don't want to build a car. I don't want to just take over, but I kind of, as soon as someone would hit me with that, I instantly divide everything into two different kinds of reports, tactically and strategically. If the type of report that came to me was more of a tactical decision, hey, we need to either shut this down, we need to do whatever, cash dropped, we're going to cut off payroll, whatever. That's a tactical move that we have to react to very quickly, and we can. And then there's the type of report that you might get something out of a BI product that's going to be a strategic decision that says, look, based on what we're seeing right now, everything in Dutch marks and contracts are changing, and it's causing our revenue to change, and we don't know why. Well, now we need to have a strategy to figure out how we're going to handle and manage that. So I divide that between the two. The tactical stuff, very quick and easy to do, and then on the strategic stuff, then it kind of matters, what kind of company are you in? Are they going to have that ability to react and move and change or not? And so, and those are how I divide everything I do in BI, is tactical or strategic, and then that kind of determines who the consumer of the report is going to be, and we can make very quick decisions.
A little bit of comment on that in terms of the empowerment. That was one of the really important things for us, and one of why the decisions we made is we wanted to not only empower users to basically consume the data that's out there, but we also wanted to empower them to go out and create their own reports and be able to manipulate and look at the data and get that out of IT. As I said, we have a fairly small IT staff, and let them have that. We want to build the data sets for them and then turn them loose. And definitely Business Objects has given us the ability to do that. We've trained, I think right now, 16 internal users, multiple users usually in every department, to really be able to fully leverage the Webby analytics tool. And then we'll continue to do that as we roll out the new tools. We'll continue to train individual users or multiple users in each of the departments. So whether they're not coming for us to report, so they come to us and ask, you know what? Now the driver is, hey, I really need to look at this way. Can you guys either create a universe or can we modify the universe that we have to be able to do that? And that's really empowering them to say, here, how do I want to look at this today? The business changes. You know, we may want to look at inventory one way, this way today, but tomorrow it may be, hey, what's that going to do to cash if we do that? What's Chinese New Year going to do to our cash flow situation? And we can manipulate and they can manipulate that data and do that on the fly. So it's really improved how we can do that.
Thank you. So Michelle, you see these situations day in, day out as I do. So I just want to get your thoughts on how SAP can help customers in that situation.
Well, I'm actually going to flip it on you. And it's a little bit on industry that you were talking about. Our go-to-market strategy for under $1 billion of organizations with those annual revenues, our go-to-market strategy is with our partners. And I really look to leverage, Bramasol to really help not only with industry focus that they've been involved with and those organizations that they've helped with. And then on the flip side, with the ease of use, they've been in multiple companies, with different expertise in users, from the basic to the expert. What I would definitely say is use your relationship with Bramasol to help you assess not only the capabilities, but also if your architecture is ready for that, or what else do we need to do? Not only use the expertise of SAP, but I definitely leverage Bramasol to help say, what did you find is a best practice in this specific industry? And they're extremely good at that. And that's why I wanted to flip it on you guys.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I see from time to time is just where is a customer at. For example, John Cohen and I were up in Portland at a prospect where they were using scratch notepads on the factory floor. They're going to be ready for iPads with all the analytics, probably not for a little while. And other companies like BioMed, on the leading edge of high tech, certainly they're looking at the latest and greatest in terms of innovation. So a lot of it comes to where the customer's at as well. But these are very strong leaders that are kind of leading that revolution in their companies as well. So I think I'll let David talk to that, because you're really translating from the legacy Excel spreadsheets with data all over the place in different online systems as well as Excel spreadsheets, and then validating that through the budgeting process in the new system, right? You went through that pain quite a bit, including parallel testing, so maybe you could speak a little bit to that.
The beauty of this product is it doesn't change the way you do business. So what the data that was in Excel spreadsheets, it's still in Excel spreadsheets. It hasn't changed the way our finance department or our accounting departments maintain that data. It's just that now we have a medium to where all the data is now stored in a centralized location, where we have different applications that access the data in these cubes, and now we know that it's accessing it all from the same place. It's not from all various different disparate Excel spreadsheets or other data sets. So as far as validation is concerned, you really don't have to validate it because you are still maintaining it as you were before.
Clint or Sean, any thoughts on that?
I'll wait.
A little bit to what David said. We've turned a lot of the reporting over to our users, and we did have a fear that we would see an explosion of reports. we'd have 57 of what was basically the same report that somebody had sorted it differently. And I'll be honest, we've seen a little bit of that. But we have gone to basically with the key users and the people that are doing it. We meet every week, just usually briefly, 15, 20 minutes. What are you doing? Where are they at? We've set up designated folder trees to where they can have their own report. We're okay with that. We all know it's coming from one set of data. There's, we've turned them loose basically on 4 separate universes. We've validated all the data in the universe, in those universes, so we know the data is always correct. Them changing how they slice, dice, sort the data doesn't change the result. So we know they're reporting on the accurate data. Our biggest fear was actually that we'd end up with hundreds of reports. But really, it was a little bit of an overstated fear that they really haven't done that. They usually take a base model of a report and modify that, and then we decide every week. All right, is that useful to the entire organization? How you're looking at that information? If it's so, then we publish it out into the main repository, and then everybody has access to that. If they did something ad hoc just to look at it, then they keep that in their favorites, and we're good with that.
Thank you. Sean, anything to add, or are you good?
Yeah, so Adobe used a module, master data management. It was a very large problem. Being able to one guy runs a report and says our revenue is X. Another guy will say we're going to say that revenue was Y, and why do we have this big difference? And it's always going to be IT's fault. It just turns out to be that way. And so what we really found out, and part of that RISIF thing that I talked about under the reports, is we had to go back and define definitions. What does revenue mean? That's a big one. Ask a sales guy. It's when he gets paid, right? If you ask accounting, it's when we can recognize it. If you ask the CFO, I mean, it's going to be a different. We had to actually go back and under a whole bunch of committees that I called death by 1,000 cuts, was just make these definitions of everything. What does sales mean? What is revenue? What is commission? When is it paid? When is it? Every single thing had to be defined, and then we go through this validation process that these guys talked about. And I also kind of noticed, and maybe it's just for me, but when I talk about BI more, I'm much more talking about the reporting side of things. But when I think of, and when I say report, it doesn't matter to me the medium, mobile, paper, dashboard, I don't really care. And I noticed that when David talks about, he's the BPC guy, which is totally okay. But for me, I kind of separate BPC. I just go hardcore. I know that's my FP&A department. That's going to be my planners, my budgeting, my planning, my consolidations. I just have those in a different, I don't necessarily put those, maybe I should call them a subset of BI. BI to me is just this information being out. And then what they share, though, with what we talked about earlier, is the under the iceberg. I don't really care what the end result, what the gloss on the pig looks like. What matters is all that data underneath. And that's the big part of SAP. It's all underneath the covers that matters. Get it in there the right way. Everybody agree on a definition, and I don't really care how you look at it.
With a few minutes left, one question I want to just ask the 3 panelists is, given where you are today, where do you see going forward in terms of short-term and long-term with analytics in your companies?
I'm still very new on my job, but I am working currently on how to make a very large group of doctors happy. And we're really focusing on something just totally surprising to me. Every company in the world with a brain is using accrual. My master's degree is in accounting. Accounting is accrual based. Almost all medical is cash. I had no idea. That's a big game changer for me. So I'm working on just a whole series of just what BI ought to be for medical and be caught up in the day. And what they want to know is where I'm at, is how many procedures did we do a day? What's our average revenue? How can I tell what will be the effect of the election on my revenue? And we're really looking at that kind of stuff hard already. So yeah, that's me in the future.
For us, it's a lot more about expanding out the tool set that we have. We're very heavily using Webby. We've adopted that very widely across the organization. Everybody really likes it. For us, Explorer is next, and then Excelsius. Because the next piece for us is the mobile analytics, and be able to push analytics to our users over in Asia. And then we're also working on a couple projects of combining not only analytics but with CRM, and some of the other file sharing applications for our product development teams that primarily work off their iPads and are always on a factory floor somewhere in Southeast Asia. So that's really where the vision for us is going, is really to expand out what we have and fully leverage what we've got.
Yeah, our next steps definitely is it's all about mobility. The nature of our business, the majority of our users work away from the office, and we're at an age where 3-pound laptops are far too heavy, and so everybody's carrying iPads, iPhones, and they want to be able to get to all of their data. They want it now. They want it in real time, and this data spans across all of our different systems. And so, we're definitely leveraging SAP tools to be able to help us do that in the near future.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to take the time to thank all of our panelists today for taking their time to share their insights, their experiences with you guys. And thank you for really attending and listening to them.